Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Whole Home Show. I'm Tony Joe, your host here every week, bringing you tips, education, and updates on home-related matters here in Greater Victoria. Whether you're in the real estate market or if you're looking for ideas, things to do around the house, improvement items, this is a great place for you to be. Our show comes to you with the support of our show partners. Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group. JP Sellers, insurance advisor at Westland Insurance. The Sitka Law Group for your real estate, wills and estates, corporate and personal injury needs. And Pierre Beauvais at Silhouette Home Inspections. If you need help or direction in your real estate transaction, give any of the Whole Home Show team members a call. They would love to hear from you. I've been your host here every week. I've been selling real estate here in Greater Victoria since 1991. I've handled hundreds of transactions here in the best place in Canada, some would say in the world. I'm also proud to be ranked one of the top RE/MAX agents in Western Canada. I'd be pleased to help you as well too. So if you need a second opinion or want to talk about real estate in general, just reach out to me. You can find my contact information and the contact information of the rest of our Whole Home Show team on the cfax1070.com website. Look under shows, there you'll find us, the Whole Home Show. We are experiencing some really strange markets out there during this global pandemic. Can you believe that real estate is a hot topic and a hot commodity? People are buying right now like they never have before. And we're not just talking Victoria. This is happening across the country. And today, I'll be bringing you on another cross-country trip, talking to Phil Moore in the Vancouver marketplace, Cliff Stevenson in Calgary, and then also Richard Silver in Toronto. You'll be hearing about what's happening in those areas, those marketplaces in Canada. We always have our listener question or story. And if you have one, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call. Our number is 250-414-6540. That's 250-414-6540, and leave a message. Today, though, we are starting up with a conversation with our regular guest and show partner. That's Denise Webster, our intrepid mortgage broker. Denise, how are you?
I'm good, Tony. How are you doing?
Great, great, great. Well, listen, I wanted to have you on to talk about what people are reading about in social media or the news. You're getting a mortgage for 0.99%. What is this all about? Tell us.
It is a little crazy to even utter those amounts, that value.
Yeah.
It is a big talk of the town right now, and the media's done a great job of getting that out. But unfortunately, it doesn't really give you enough information of what type of mortgage that is. I'm thrilled to see rates like this. I mean, it just makes it gives our buyers some more purchase power. I mean, the stress test still applies, but it just looks like an affordable mortgage now. But yeah, let's just talk about a 0.99%. I think one thing that when I get a call about it, there is a lot of confusion and not a lot of knowledge about what type of mortgage product that is. So in a nutshell, I can tell you, first of all, it is not a fixed rate. You're not locking into that rate. That is a floating rate. So our prime rate of the Bank of Canada right now is 2.45. So that would be a discount of 1.46 off of prime to get you a mortgage rate of 0.99%. It's a 4-year term that they're offering. And I'm not going to tippy toe around it. It's all over the news. This is an HSBC offer that's out there.
Yep.
Now, one thing you're really not hearing about it is that it's a quick close offer. So this mortgage has to fund by January 4th.
Wow. So it's a tight window.
Huge tight window.
Yeah.
And nothing's happening fast in this market right now. You can imagine, if you know how busy it is out there, think of how busy our lenders are as well. So trying to get this approval in place, what I'm reading from other brokers in the industry as well, that clients that are trying to get through to HSBC can sit on hold for 3 to 4 hours.
Well, hold on a second. So you said it has to be funded by January the 4th?
Well,
Okay, so people need to understand that the lawyers got to get lined up. The mortgage instructions got to get lined up. Everything's got to be lined up to close on January the 4th. Everything's got to.
There's holidays in there.
There's holidays in there, so there's a 2-week. You got to Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
So we're seeing things now that on just, I mean, not the 0.99, but just really as close as low. There's still a quick close, so that can be a 30-day close.
Hmm.
Other ones will be a 90-day hold as well. So you really need to know your time limits on a certain mortgage product. This is also the most important thing to understand about these, the incredibly low rates are, they are for new mortgages only. So it's not where you're going to transfer your mortgage over or you're going to refinance your mortgage. This is a brand new mortgage where you're purchasing and you are purchasing with less than 20% down. So this is called a high ratio borrower default insured mortgage where you're paying an insurance premium. Everybody knows the CMHC. So that is key. This is not somebody calling me and saying, I'd like to refinance, I'd like that rate. Well, that's just off the table. Not at all. This is for brand new mortgages in a high ratio purchase.
Okay. So there's a number of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And not necessarily to just this product that's being advertised, but quite often when there's an incentive for a really low rate, there's not so much a catch, but I think you need to read the fine print. So the one things that are usually quite evident is with a major bank, they are going to want you to have your banking there. It's actually, you're opening accounts there as well. You have to make a commitment to that branch, to that bank to get those rates. Sometimes they want you to have some investments there as well. They want to see regular deposits. So they're going to make sure you have a pre-authorized deposit going into that bank account as well, or pre-authorized debit payments coming out. So you've got a commitment to that lender. The other fine print on some of the other low rate mortgages, I call them no frills mortgages. You really need to know what is your penalty to get out of that mortgage, because instead of a traditional 3-month interest penalty on a variable rate mortgage, which is actually governed by our Interest Act, unless it is overwritten with a low rate incentive, and they can just do a flat 3% penalty on the balance of your mortgage. Even if it's a variable rate mortgage, you could have a high penalty.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. So that's different than the interest rate differential, which is also something that could potentially be painful, right?
Yes. So just to be very clear on that, variable rate mortgage is a standard full package variable rate mortgage. You are guaranteed 3-month interest penalty if you break that mortgage any point during the 5-year term. It is governed by our Interest Act.
Okay.
But if you go into a low rate or a no frills variable rate mortgage, you have to find out if there's some fine print on that, and they've overwritten that rule and made it a flat rate penalty of 3%.
Yeah.
Fixed rate mortgages, one or the other. It's either 3-month interest penalty or the interest rate differential, depending on which is higher.
Yeah, I feel, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, that this is the problem about the low rates that we're experiencing right now. Is I think the interest rate differential as we move forward in the future could be problematic for some people.
Yes and no, because what the interest rate differential is basically, I explained to my clients, you're going to see a much higher penalty when we see you coming out of a high rate and going into a low rate. So right now, people call me, right?
Okay.
So people that call me right now to refinance and they're in a high 3% rate and they say, I want to do this, I want to get into this low rate. There's that interest rate differential, because you're basically saying, I'm breaking my mortgage, Mr. Bank, here's your money back. Yeah. And the lender says, well, we now have to sell those funds at today's rate. This is the loss we take. So in reverse, if you go into a really low rate, very low chance of you having that interest rate differential in the future, because rates have nowhere to go but up.
There you go. You see, that's me just shooting from the hip. You are 100%. I get it. You're absolutely right. That does make sense. But
yeah,
but
when rates go down, it's super exciting. But all in the back of my head is like, oh, those people that are in the high rates, they really want a piece of this, but we're going to see nasty penalties. We're seeing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 penalties right now.
Yeah. So the reminder is know your penalty and read the small print.
Yeah.
Thank you, Denise. As always, if people need to talk to you about mortgage stuff, how do they do that?
Just call me directly. My cell number is 250-889-4743. Shoot me an email, denise@denisewebster.com. I will get back to you.
And of course, your contact information is on the Whole Home Show page on the CFAX 1070 website, because you are, and you have been from the very beginning, one of our show supporters and team members. So amazing what's going on out there. This is what's driving the market, is the fact that rates are so low, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Denise. We need to take our quick break. When we come back, I'll be taking you for a trip across Canada, starting with Vancouver with Phil Moore. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for coming back. You're listening to The Whole Home Show, and I'm Tony Joes. Interesting time out there in the marketplace. What is happening, and how is the market as busy as it is, considering where we're at right now with COVID and all of that stuff? So we're going across the country today. We're starting off close to us in Vancouver. We want to learn about what's going on in the Vancouver market. And with us today, we have Phil Moore, a fellow RE/MAX agent in Vancouver. Phil, thanks for coming back. I've had you on the show before.
Thanks for having me, Tony. I don't think anyone could have predicted this market coming out of COVID, and what would happen. And it is the market in Vancouver has just been crazy.
Okay, so where are the buyers coming from? Because, I'll just get this out of the way right now. There was always this conversation about foreign buyers influencing Vancouver, but of course, nobody's coming now. So what is it?
So what we're finding, the impact of COVID is people need larger spaces, and interest rates are exceptional. They're all-time lows, and we're seeing a lot of move-up buyers. I don't know if you've heard about the downtown Vancouver market. It is certainly loaded with a lot of inventory, and people have been moving out of downtown Vancouver, moving towards the east and getting into either a townhouse or a home. People that are in one-bedroom condos are now working from home, and it isn't working out. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing a lot of move-up buyers. We're also seeing some first-time buyers getting into the market with these historic low rates.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're just talking, posted rates of less than 1%. I mean, of course, always read the small print, right? That's important. We'll be talking with Phil Silver, or with Richard Silver in Toronto after our next break. Because the other thing too is, I mean, we've been hearing in Toronto the fact that the house market is hot, but the condo market is softer. Are you seeing that too in Vancouver?
Well, we've had record construction over the last few years. So, we always had a net immigration of 42,000 people in British Columbia, and we were building 32 to 36,000 condos. So there was never enough condos. Then in 2018, we built 48,000 condos. And so what we're seeing right now is the condo inventory about 31% more listings than a year ago. Okay. So condo buyers have more inventory, whereas on the flip side of it, detached inventory is 26% lower than a year ago. So definitely the properties that are getting scooped up are the homes and the missing middle, the townhomes, the semi-detached, which we call half a duplexes, strata duplexes, and the detached homes, especially when we move further east to areas like Maple Ridge.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you next. I mean, what are the market areas that are hotter now than they traditionally are? So Maple Ridge is one of them, right?
Well, what's really surprising in the last 60 days was that places like Sunshine Coast, Gulf Islands, and Squamish.
Yeah. These
remote areas have been really catching on fire, and those were areas that were particularly slow in slower times, but they are certainly seeing the pent-up demand. And again, it is really a price range. It's the magic number in Greater Vancouver seems to be 1.5 million and under.
Okay.
Market is really moving. Traditional Vancouver special that 6 months ago might have been 1.2, 1.3 is now 1.5, 1.6. We've seen some big price increases in the East Vancouver section of the market. And for high-end market, your West Vancouver or the West Side, that market that's 5 million and above, 5 to 20 million, that has not picked up. That is still slow, and that's probably because that price was only affordable to foreigners, and they're just not coming.
Mm-hmm. But and again, going back to that foreigner question, the elimination of foreigners hasn't caused the market to collapse. I mean, much of the drive here really has been the locals that are moving from within the marketplace, right?
Yeah, the Vancouver market is so resilient. It's just amazing. We're looking at detached housing prices in the last 12 months up 10% in the middle of the pandemic. even your condo market with so much inventory, you're still sitting at 3.4% increase in price from a year ago. And this is unprecedented times, but the prices are holding, they're climbing, and it's going to be interesting to see where we go in 2021.
No kidding. Hey, have you seen yourself folks from the east? So the Torontonians, people relocating from within Canada to the region there.
So as a matter of fact, I've got a referral and I've got to take out a buyer a little bit later today from Ontario. Mm-hmm. We're seeing them from Ontario and we're seeing them from Alberta. So we certainly are seeing more immigration within the country.
Yeah. Well, and you know what, this is what we're experiencing too. So that ripple effect, you know, of people moving outwards. So of course, you know, you've got the Toronto going outwards to the Barrie and Guelph and Oshawa. You were talking about Vancouver going east. I saw on a post, you know, because of course you and I are involved in a whole bunch of real estate, private community Facebook pages and stuff. People talking about like Hope, you know, going out to Hope and commuting in. I'm like, my goodness. But I guess we're in a different place right now, right?
Well, here's what's going to be really interesting because, you know, since about April, the buyers have been trending that way. And now when they have to come back downtown to go to work, so that when maybe in 2021 or 2022, will they come back and will they start buying up those condos that are downtown? Will they want to live downtown, or will they have got used to that lifestyle? And certainly, yeah, Hope is one of those areas that is affordable. You're an hour and a half, 2 hours out of Vancouver in rush hour, but people were getting homes there.
Well, and again, you know, you talk about the GTA. That's a regular day, an hour and a half, right?
That's right. That's right. We just, you know, some of our tech people were used to getting out of their condo and walking across the street to work because they were living downtown. We created all these bike lanes because people didn't have cars; they had bikes. We created condos without parking spaces. Again, because that was the lifestyle. But it's certainly quiet in our downtown market, but it's going to be interesting to see if they come back.
Yeah. You've been at this a long time because you've been at this longer than me. You're over 30 years, right?
Yeah, 31 years.
Yeah. And it goes without saying, I mean, we've never seen anything like this.
You know, 2009 got close. I mean, it seemed like such a long time ago, but 2008, we had the collapse of the banking system in the United States. And so we had a real slowdown. It didn't last that long. It lasted about 10, 11 months. And 2009, the market started to shoot up. And those were really record months of sales. But we passed those now in 2020. We're seeing increases of 50% more sales and 56% more sales. And, you know, and actually the market started to pick up last September, and September, October, November, in fact, December of 2019, when you compare it year over year to December 2018, sales were up 88%. And then January, February continued, and all of a sudden COVID hit and everything came to a halt. And since May, we started to pick up, actually since June, we started to pick up momentum, and it's just continued on. It reminds me a lot of 2009. Yeah. And we know in 2009, prices went up almost until 2016. But there are opportunities in real estate and there are lulls in the market. And we've had a 2, 3, 4 year lull. I mean, it's been quiet since 2016. But what we're seeing now is a lot of pent up demand.
You know, something that people often forget about is Vancouver is known on the world stage. I mean, everyone talks about Vancouver. I mean, we've got this international gem right beside us, and there will always be that demand, right?
And the other thing is that you're just trapped. You've got mountains to the north, you've got ocean to the west. To the south of us is the United States border, and to the east, well, you get as far as Hope, and then you start hitting the mountains. So there isn't a lot of land, and it's so desirable.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Phil, thanks for joining us again. If people need to reach you to talk about Vancouver real estate, what's the best way to do that?
Well, sure. You can check out my website, phil@philmore.com. You can shoot me an email, or my cell is 604-230-3772.
Great. Well, Phil, thanks for coming back. Man, you are a mountain of resources. You were the past president of the Vancouver Real Estate Board. You're a director at large of the Canadian Real Estate Association. You are typically the voice of reason on many of these Facebook groups that we're part of. So thanks for joining us. It means a lot. And happy selling out there.
My pleasure. Stay safe, everyone.
Great. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for coming back. You're listening to The Whole Home Show, and I'm Tony Joe. Our show comes to you every week with the support of our show partners, Denise Webster, mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group, JP Sellers, insurance advisor at Westland Insurance, the Sitka Law Group for your real estate, wills and estates, corporate and personal injury needs, and Silhouette Home Inspections with Pierre Beauvais. If you need help in your real estate transaction, looking for great advice from trusted professionals in our community, give any of our Whole Home Show team members a call. They would love to hear from you. As a reminder, you can find their contact information on the cfax1070.com website. Look under shows. There you'll find us, The Whole Home Show with me, Tony Joe, or reach out to me. I'd be happy to connect with you. And by the way, if you're a podcast listener, we do podcast all of our episodes on iTunes or Google Play. We're having a conversation today about the markets across Canada. You heard from Phil Moore in Vancouver. I am going eastward. We'll be finishing up with Toronto at the end of our program. But right now, we have another distinguished guest, and that is Cliff Stevenson. Cliff is in Calgary. He is a broker owner at Remax First. Cliff, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Appreciate it.
Okay, listen, of course, here in small little Victoria, all of the buzz seems to be in the big markets. Like we hear about what's going on in Toronto, we hear about what's going on in Vancouver. What's been happening in Calgary? You're in the middle, and yet you're so close to us. Well, how's it going? What has COVID done to the market?
Tony, it's I'm not familiar with the other markets, so I don't know how unique this is going to sound, and I'm open to the fact that it may sound repetitive, given the impact of COVID on real estate markets. But for Calgary, we had the pullback obviously in March. We had a big pullback in April and May. I mean, I think that was kind of a scenario that many markets faced, but then we rebounded pretty hard. So July was our first month where we saw a pretty good increase year over year in sales volume. August was pretty flat, but then we were seeing like 23 to 25% increases every month since then, year over year in sales volume. It's been busy. I think the seasonal slowdown that everybody's expecting is it's not happening yet. We're December 11th today. The first 10 days in December, we're up 43% in sales volume year over year.
As in this point of the month, you mean?
Yeah, this point of the month.
Okay.
Yeah, year over year, the same 10 days last year versus these first 10 days this year, we're up 43%, and we're clicking. There's a lot of activity happening, and with our inventory down, like we're down about 18% right now. The same time last year, it's a bit of a frenzy out there.
I've been very curious about Calgary because Alberta, Calgary, and Edmonton, for that matter. I mean, you guys have not had banner markets in the last 3 or 4 years. Like, in fact, it's been a little bit on the soft side, right?
Yeah. So, Tony, at our peak, just for some perspective for your listeners, our peak in 2014, we were selling roughly 26,000 homes a year in Calgary. And since then, when the energy price collapse happened, we've been declining significantly. We might hit 16,000 sales a year at this point in the last couple of years, which is obviously a huge drop. Pricing's taken a significant hit too. It's been a challenging 5 years here in our province. Mm-hmm. Anybody that understands what our province is tied to from a business perspective would totally get that.
Energy, oil, yes.
Yeah, oil and gas has been the driver of our province for a long time, and so it's impacted our numbers tremendously. So when you see numbers like this happening this year, there's some encouragement, but I think there's enough of the experts out there not having a lot of rationale for sustained growth and an improvement. I think that's probably a challenging conversation for us as a province right now. Mm-hmm. Short term, though, my goodness, we're rocking and rolling.
So who's buying? Like, the numbers are up. I had the conversation with Phil about, the foreign buyers are gone, and yet they're not influencing the Vancouver market. I suspect Richard will say the same in Toronto. pretty well all the markets are locals or people moving within. Like, are you seeing people moving from outside of the Calgary market into Calgary?
So we're probably seeing more heading out right now.
Okay.
People that didn't need to live in the core coming out to the suburbs. I think acreage sales have been fairly healthy as well. We've actually had, even personal experience, a number of individuals heading from our city to other areas of the country. I mean, Kelowna has been a very popular destination for, a significant number of people that have been told that they're going to be working remotely anyway. So you might as well be, somewhere where at least the weather's better and the wine's better.
Okay.
So that's been a shift. But I mean, to the root of the question, there's been a lot of questions on why we're seeing what we're seeing right now. I mean, especially in our province. I mean, I know everybody's saying, "Hey, the impact of COVID. This is kind of strange to see some of these numbers." But for us, with a challenged economy, one out of every 4 high rises downtown Calgary being completely empty, type scenario. And to be totally blunt, I'm not so sure I have any of those answers, nor have I met anybody with those answers on why what's happening is currently happening. Who's buying, who's driving this? Did we have a conversation with pent-up demand at some point in time? For sure. Have we run through that based on the statistics? Probably. Is the super low interest rates driving this? That's definitely got to be part of it.
Yeah.
But there's probably a combination of a whole bunch of things here that are driving this activity. And I defy somebody to put their finger on exactly what it is.
Well, it's amazing when you think about it, right? Because it's hard to believe it's been 9 months now during COVID, and yet, there's been so many concerns and stresses on families. Yet, real estate and housing and where they're going to live and what their lifestyle is has remained on the top of the charts, as it were, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think some people that are, let's be clear about this, and we touched on it for a second about the moving from downtown Calgary to suburbs and outlying areas. Some of that was just purely square footage driven. I mean, there, people being inside their homes and developing home offices or needing to anyway, and corporate, plans and forecasts on timing to return to the office, if at all. I mean, complete business shifts that have been driving consumer behavior in our housing market for sure. So, like I said, I think there's a whole bunch of things here that are really adding up to driving this. I don't know how long this is going to go on for.
So something that has been sort of the common dialogue across the country that I'd heard for years is, because the market slowed down, as you said, from peak of 2014 in Calgary, it seems like the high-end market in Calgary is where the opportunities lie right now.
Well, when you're talking a dollar for dollar decrease, when you start talking percentages and you start applying, cash equivalents to what those are, absolutely. I mean, we often see asking prices on homes that, people that have been in this business long enough can look back and say, well, geez, back in 2014, it would have been X dollars, and there's a pretty big delta on some of those homes.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think that's been one of the more surprising segments of our market this year, on how well it has moved.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, I mean, our pricing has shifted. It's shifted tremendously. We get the inquiry every once in a while from investors saying, "Hey, like, it's now the time. It's now the time." And it's like, well, to be totally frank with you, man, don't know a lot of people that have timed the bottom perfectly, but we might be getting there. It's there's some great buying opportunities for sure.
Yeah, because Calgary of all places remains that place. I mean, you've got everything there. My wife's from Calgary, right? So she's a Calgary girl, loves going home. It's a great family area, kids, amenities, and I have had the chance to visit a number of luxury homes in Calgary, and you guys do it differently. I mean, a luxury home in Calgary is different than one in Vancouver. You get property, you have scale, right? So I think that's a nifty opportunity, actually.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, you get some land out here. You do, for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, Cliff, thank you very much for joining. I know you're a busy guy. So Cliff is also the chair-elect of the Canadian Real Estate Association, past president of the Calgary Real Estate Board, a very busy guy and a busy realtor and broker owner at Remax First. Thanks for joining us. If people need to reach you to talk about Calgary, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, Google me. My cell number is online. My email's online. But Cliff at cliffstevenson.com. More than happy to answer any questions for anybody.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, Cliff. We need to take a quick little break here. When we come back, we'll be having a conversation about Toronto with Richard Silver. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for coming back. You're listening to The Whole Home Show, and I'm Tony Joe. We are having yet another trip across the country. We wanted to know more about what's happening in different marketplaces in Canada. Here we are. It's December in the year of COVID. Very unique time. We've had conversations with Phil Moore in Vancouver about what's going on in the Vancouver market, with Cliff Stevenson in Calgary. And right now we have a returning guest. Had him on in the past. It's Richard Silver from Sotheby's in Toronto. Richard, thanks for joining us again.
Pleasure, Tony. Always great to speak to you.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I feel like it's been forever since we've seen each other face to face. But I guess it's true with a lot of people.
Face to face, mask to mask. It's crazy.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. So
hopefully we're near the end. Hopefully.
Yes, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. It's December, and
Yes.
Not typically a busy time of year. What's going on in the Toronto market?
Normally what happens is around 1st of December, we sort of slow down, we get ready for the holiday, but nothing is the way it was or the way it should be. We've been very, very surprised. The market has been excellent. It's been busy. We've had a lot of sales, especially in the high end, which is very strange. But I think at the end of the day, we're finding that the people with the money actually have money to spend, and they're spending it. They seem to be buying a lot of the big properties. So we're seeing offers on a lot of the big properties where the condominium right now, the smaller condominiums are absolutely dead. That market is very, very, very slow.
Yeah.
And the middle-sized condominiums and the larger sized condominiums are moving, but they are slower. They're being affected by that whole media talk about how the condo market is dead.
Okay,
I just sold the big one.
Okay, so I do want to talk about that because it's true. This is what we're reading about over on this side here, is that whole outward migration and how people are leaving their downtown condos. And so what is the effect? And is this what's happening?
Well, you know what? We are seeing that. There's no doubt. If you look at the stats from the past couple of months for the Toronto Real Estate Board, you're finding that the 416 is underperforming, and the 905, which is just the outskirts of Toronto, the suburbs, as we call it, or the 705, is doing really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And
by the way, I'm sure we have a lot of Toronto expats who listen to our program. But for those who don't know, the 905 and the 416, the area code, because it's the different areas. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
And then we get farther north, you get the 705s. Anyways, but that's a big reverse from the past couple of years. It's totally flipped on its own. However, I think the thing that's really interesting to see is since I have noticed anyways, because for strange reasons, one of the seldom times I've been following the stock market as things have changed. The stock market seems to be really performing well because of the vaccine. And I'm just wondering how, if, it used to be if you moved out to the country, you couldn't afford to get back into Toronto.
Yes.
But now that's different. So if you move out to the country's probably, price improving higher. Will that hold? I don't know, because the thing that the country doesn't have is the sports and the arts and the restaurants. And, there's always going to be people who are downtown people. And one of the major things, again, for us is, same as you guys out west, is immigration. Our immigration has just slowed down to almost nothing. Very little. I think the government is going to be making some major changes to help immigration, because that's really, if we didn't have immigration in Canada, we would have a negative growth. Mm-hmm. Because immigration really fuels both the market out in the West Coast and the market in the East Coast as well. So I think when things start opening up again because of the vaccine, that we're going to see a complete change again. We may see a flip back to people who are out in the country who say, you know what, I really miss going to the opera. I really miss going to the ballet. I want to go to the theater. I want to see music. I want to see concerts. I want to see my sports.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, you know, maybe I want to move back to downtown Toronto. So we'll see.
Because, you know, the presumption that we have sometimes, especially in the GTA, is for those that are moving outwards, as far as having access to the amenities of downtown Toronto, you've got the GO train, you've got other ways to get to town. We don't have that, like not even in Vancouver, right?
Well, you have a great subway, not subway line. I guess it's
but
your
not,
line is excellent,
but not one that goes out, you know, to like Chilliwack or whatever.
No. And they're constantly, as a matter of fact, under a new mayor, they've been doing a lot to improve it. They've just launched or started talking about another line that's going to go basically on old railway lines. That are not very used, but it'll be providing very easy access to the downtown from Markham, Unionville, and it'll be direct.
Oh, so to get to avoid the Don Valley Parkway, that the parking lot, I've done that.
The parking lot, yeah. Yes. We lovingly refer to it as the Don Valley parking lot.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you know what I just heard from you is an interesting point, and that is because we're used to it too. When you move outwards into a different market area, sometimes over time you get priced out because the in town goes up and the out of town doesn't. But what you're saying, because we're seeing all this growth in the areas like Barrie, Guelph, Oshawa, everything's growing, right?
Oh, it's growing. It's growing like crazy. I guess because there is so much opportunity business-wise, job-wise. And you know what? I'm an Albertan. I'm a Westerner at heart. And I've watched in my lifetime that I've lived in Toronto, I've watched a lot of people go out to Alberta for business and for work and jobs, and then a lot of people come back. And part of the problem is that Alberta market is so based on oil, and any place that's based on oil is going to be going through. So a lot of my friends who went out to Alberta are back, and there's constantly changes. You know, it's very, it fluctuates constantly. That's one of the things that keeps us busy in real estate. It's always adapting.
For sure. Well, listen, I want to go back to the conversation about condos, and because there is that perception that there are empty, unsold units which otherwise would have sold quickly, and there is the thought that maybe it's a buyer's market in the especially entry level or lower the smaller condos in Toronto. Is that what you're seeing, or?
You know, I have seen a change in the market. Before we went down, before COVID went down, I had one buyer who's looking to find something for $500,000 in downtown Toronto,
which is hard to do, probably, right?
Which is hard to do, yeah. And it was multiple offers on everything. Yeah. Well, finally, about 2 months ago, we finally found him something that was quite easy. There was only one offer. We got it, you know, but that would never have happened 3 months before or 4 months before COVID started. So there is easy access. It's hard to judge how many of the brand new buildings are going to be empty. I bought in one. I have an apartment that'll be ready in 1 year.
Yeah.
And
you would have bought this, of course, before all this went down.
Oh, yeah. 3 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago. And I know that most of the people buying at that time were offshore. However, it was the location I wanted. It was the building I wanted. It was the builder I wanted. Yeah. And I think still the builder is very important. You know, I think that's one of the things in real estate we don't give enough credit for. I think the builder can make a huge difference. I notice, and I'm just talking as a resale agent. I've noticed that a lot of people go for the design. They go for the look of the building, and all of that's very well and good. But if the builder's not a good builder who stands up for their work and who completes properly, and you can resell 20, 30, 40 years from now, that's the thing I think we need to look more at. So the good builders, I think, are always going to do quite well. It's the ones that are a little...
Yeah. So
Yeah.
even in a pandemic-stricken market, I hear what you're saying. The ones with the name and the reputation, right?
Yeah, I bought from Tridel, which is a big
Yes.
brokerage, a big builder in Toronto. They've got 80 or 90 years of experience in Toronto. And I've resold their units that, you know, that are 30 years old, 40 years old. It's always been good product. And yeah, they needed renovation, they needed refreshing, but all the basics, all the bones were there. And there was no sort of, you know, problems with, you know, things that shouldn't have been problems.
Got it.
So they seem to be doing very well right now. I think they're selling, I mean, they are advertising a lot more and they're offering bonuses, et cetera, like anybody. And they're actually going offshore to sell a lot of the units.
Amazing. Well, hey,
But they're
actually
doing well.
and that's a great segue too, because you were talking about the high end, the top end of the market, and how that market is far from dead. So because there's no foreign buyers right now, which fueled that before, you said earlier that people with money are just buying, right?
Yeah, and you know what? You know who's coming back to the market?
Ooh.
The Canadians who left Canada 30 years ago.
Ah, interesting.
That's who I sold. That was the deal this morning. They had left 30 years ago. They wanted to come back, you know, for healthcare for their kids. They wanted their kids who are adult kids are all Canadian, but they just wanted, you know, they didn't like what they were seeing in the U.S. They were a little nervous about that. Just the, you know, the division that seems to be happening in the country in the U.S. and the discussions. And they really wanted to be someplace not only that had health care, but had access to their parents, easy access to their parents. And I think COVID has changed a lot of the way people look at things. So you are seeing, I mean, the difference with Canada, even for, like we started talking about the distribution of the vaccine. When you have health care, it's not a big question to distribute the vaccine. It's not like they do in the States where it becomes a fight over, you know, the hospitals, the providers, the insurance companies, etc. Those are all things that we don't deal with in Canada. So just, and because of it, we have a bit of a healthier person who lives in Canada. Canadians are healthier by about 3 or 4 years. They live longer. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a place where, you know, we are going to see more and more of the I call them expats coming back to Toronto or coming back to Canada.
And hey, you know, that health conversation, there we go. I mean, there's something we take for granted, right? Yeah. Being here. Richard, thank you as always for coming back. Always love catching up with you and talking about what's going on in Toronto.
It's a pleasure. We got to have another non-mask to mask, another Zoom to Zoom, face to face, whatever.
For sure. Richard is with Sotheby's in Toronto, the Silver, Burtnick and Associates, past president of the Toronto Real Estate Board. You were a director at large at CREA, right?
Oh my God, you got everything there.
Well, I remember because I served on committees with you, right? So
I know. I'm just a shy guy like you, Tony. Just shy, you know. We hold back.
For sure. Best way for people to reach you if they need to.
Either go to our website, which is called torontoism.com, or our silver at sotheby'srealty.ca.
Fantastic. Torontoism is a great website.
Torontoism.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Richard. And to the rest of our listeners, we'll be here for you this time next week.